So these are the timings for the G-Sync version of the Alienware 25. I had the FreeSync version and did a review on that one. You can check that out if you want. Maybe I'll link it in the description. Maybe you'll have to type into the search bar, type my channel name into the search bar and Alienware 25, and maybe this video will come up and that video also. So the model name for this is AW2518H, and the model name for that is the same but with an F at the end. And as you can see, the timings for 240 Hz are completely different for the two monitors. But that's not the only difference there is. You can see there's less standard resolutions. I mean, there's no standard resolutions with this. There were some with that. You can again go back to that video and check it out. Other differences. Well, other differences include, spoiler alert, I was more happy with that monitor as compared to this. Physically, it's the same. Aside from these LED strips, which are currently set to color cycle, and that Alienware logo which lights up. But aside from that, it's physically the same monitor with two stickers here, which you can't find in the FreeSync version, of course. However, internally, there's a lot more different things. First off, on the FreeSync version, you have a lot of options to configure the colors on the monitor. I mean, the OSD looks like it's the same, but it's really not. If you go into it, the first thing you're probably gonna notice if you just try the FreeSync version like I did, is that the fonts are different here. But one other thing you're gonna notice, if you enter one of these menus and start pushing and holding a button, the values do not change smoothly, they just jump around. If you push it repeatedly, you can go incrementally, but if you start pushing the button, neither does the counter go smoothly, and neither does the monitor change brightness or luminance smoothly. Let me show you. I'm gonna push the upwards button continuously. And I don't know how visible was that on camera. I'm now lowering the brightness. But it doesn't go smoothly from bright to less bright and backwards, but instead it jumps. I don't know, maybe the processor in the NVIDIA scaler is less powerful. I mean, that's most likely the cause. The font is also different, as I've said, in the OSD. But these are just subtle differences, which are hinting at worse performance, but are not a major deal breaker just yet. Wait until you get to know that gone are the adjustments for color. You can't set the color in the menu, nowhere in the menu. And there's a lot less features as well, other features, like you can't adjust the sharpness and the although response time, so the label they got for overdrive is the same, of the modes are completely different, so they don't look really the same on the test UFO test, the ghosting test, which I'll show you in just a minute. But aside from having G-Sync, which I won't show you in action because I don't care for it, this monitor also has ULMB, which I will show you in action with the test UFO test. But one more thing to note, that monitor comes with a HDMI cable and a DisplayPort cable, if I remember correctly, but this one only comes with a DisplayPort cable, and that's probably because HDMI is only version 1.4, if I remember correctly. Yeah, HDMI version 1.4. And the FreeSync version has what is this mode? Normal? That's interesting. Though you can't change that from this menu. I may have to look into the service menu and find something interesting. So, again, you can go back to my previous video and compare the OSD of the FreeSync model to this one's OSD. But you can't do 240Hz on this monitor with the HDMI port, of course, using the HDMI cable, which you don't get in the box, by the way, because this doesn't have HDMI 2.0 like the FreeSync one does. And you can't set the colors on this individually. You can't set the saturation on this version, the G-Sync version. And let me tell you the truth, it even feels less smooth in game. Just a little bit, just a tiny little bit, but less smooth nonetheless. So yeah, no wonder I prefer the FreeSync version. For those of you who haven't watched that video or haven't watched my Acer XF2708J review, I can tell you that 24 and 0.5 inches and 27 inches, those two versus thingies, like this is 24.5 and that LG is 27 inches. Yeah, my room is a mess. My room is a mess, I know. It does make a difference. I can see enemies more easily on the LG, but if we're getting into the comparison, that one feels less responsive. But I've already made a video on that, comparing the responsiveness of this XL2411Z, this Alienware, and that LG. You can watch that. I will definitely link that in the description. You should watch that if you're looking to buy one of these monitors. So, actually, let me just pause the video and look up my older video about the Alienware, because I want to see the OSD of the FreeSync version, even though I've already sent it back, so it's helpful for me now that I've made a video. So yeah, some really barbaric ways of showing it to you. I'm just viewing my own video. I went through all the sections here down already in the video. If you want to check those out, and if you want a physical tour about the video, about the monitor, again, you can check this older video out. And here's the exact title of it. These are interesting. You don't have aspect ratio settings, you don't have a color format setting to change, you don't have a sharpness setting to change, you don't have a dynamic contrast setting to turn on and off. So yeah. Maybe I'll exit out of this menu and you will be able to see what all the other options say. Well, nope. And this is really unprofessional at this point. And this is the other thing I wanted to show you. The game menu of that monitor, the FreeSync version, contains not just the preset modes, but also these are in the menu of this monitor as well. Preset modes, gaming enhanced mode, response time. And again, this monitor has ULMB, but you can't set the hue, which which I don't care that much about. But you can't even set the saturation, which is a nice thing. To be able to set a saturation number and then save it to one of the profiles on the monitor. Well, you can't do that on this monitor. There's a lot of limitations that come with using a monitor that is capable of G-Sync, because it has to use NVIDIA Scalar, and NVIDIA Scalar frankly sucks ass. Other than making sure that the response times are pretty fast, the latency is pretty low, and the overdrive is set up correctly. Other than that, it's not feature rich at all. It uses an older HDMI standard. I assume, maybe this is a wrong assumption, but I assume it is also because of NVIDIA's scalar that the OSD just feels more sluggish when you change settings and stuff like that. And the monitor just responds to changes more slowly when compared to the FreeSync version, which uses Dell's own scalar, which I find to be better, actually. And yeah, I think the only thing, so color-wise, they're pretty equal, but this has this is a brighter gamma, and you cannot adjust the gamma on this monitor, on the G-Sync version. And that's same for the FreeSync version, because you can't change the gamma on that monitor either. But it's a lot darker by default, and the image looks better. This washed out, this overly bright image. I doesn't mind it in game. I do not mind it in game, but it's more akin to the BenQ. That's the stuff I'm used to with BenQ monitors, like overly bright default settings, which you can barely change. But even though on the BenQ you have a couple of preset modes in which you can change the gamma, you can't make it as dark as it was on the FreeSync version of the Alienware, or it is on the LG. So yeah. One other thing that this monitor differs from, I mean, it differs in a lot of things. One other thing it differs from the FreeSync version is that dark stabilizer is finally usable. So when you turn it up, it doesn't add a black outline around the stuff on the monitor. Yeah, you can see that it just makes the image brighter, but if you've looked at my previous video, you know that it isn't like this on the FreeSync version. On the FreeSync version, it would add an outline around the between the green and the red thingy and around the Windows logo, and just it applies it to the whole image, those strange contrast thingies. But I suppose they thought it I don't know, it makes enemies easier to see in CS or something. I don't know why they added that feature. I don't know why they didn't make it a separate feature from Dark Stabilizer, so that you could turn that artificial contrast increase separately, turn it on separately from Dark Stabilizer. If they would have done that, then I would have said, yeah, good, another feature which I might not use, but some people might do. But yeah, on this you just get the usual brightness increase in shadowy areas with Dark Stabilizer. You get the same Dark Stabilizer that you're used to on BenQ monitors, just with less steps. as opposed to the FreeSync version, but it was kind of fucked up. Again, watch my video on it if you want to know the details. The last thing I'll show you about this monitor is the ghosting test. I'll try to pursue the UFOs with my camera, just like I did in my other two reviews about the Acer and the FreeSync version of this. And I hope you will be able to see that on the normal setting, when comparing this monitor to the FreeSync version, it's a touch better, just a hair better than the FreeSync version. I'd say they are pretty equal, but this is a little bit better. The reason is because if you observe it really carefully, if you observe the UFOs carefully, you will be able to see that even though at first it seems like there's no trailing behind them at all, but if you observe it really carefully, you can see that there's a dark blue trailing behind them. And you will be able to see what I'm talking about better if I turn the overdrive setting to fast. So let's turn it to fast, and this way overshoot will be more visible. Like, you see that? The dark blue trailing behind the UFOs has intensified. So yeah, and if I go up even more, like if I go up to the super fast setting, then you will be able to see not just a dark blue trail line, but also a white corona that is following the UFO. But if you set it on normal, the overdrive is really good on this one. If you're gonna have a problem with this monitor, it's not going to be with the overdrive, I'll guarantee you that. So yeah, now that we're done with this, I'll just say it again. If you want a more comprehensive rundown of this monitor, just check out my review about the FreeSync version, because I'm more patient. I was more patient when filming that video, and I just went around the monitor physically and showed a lot more stuff, like about the stand and whatnot. So, in order to use the ultra low motion blur mode ULMB, you have to switch to 144 Hz. And now when I open the OSD, a lot of stuff disappears. You can't adjust. You have even less adjustments than before. It's comical, kind of. ULMB is on. I'm turning it off. And we get back our shortcuts with the preset modes and whatnot. But if I turn the ULMB on again, you can see that preset modes and response time is grayed off. So we're using the overdrive setting and the I want to say color setting that NVIDIA felt the best, felt it was the best, but really, even when not using ULMB, having presets doesn't really do much, because you can't set the colors up. I mean, you can set you can get into custom color mode. I mean, but I wanted to say that you can't set the saturation up, because if I turn off ULMB, I can go into, well, before going into one of the modes, I can go into custom colors, never mind. I can go into custom colors and with the same stuttery progression of numbers, I can set the color right. Like I reduced red, and I'm turning up red right now, and then the image gets normal again. So I can adjust the color if I really want to in the custom color mode, and also the game 1 mode, where I can adjust darks. Some reason when you enter the game 1 mode, or it displays RGB, CMY and dark stabilizer. You can set RGB, CMY, and I guess I was kind of wrong, because this way you can actually have a color preset in which you increase all of these, and that basically makes, so it's not named saturation, but with increasing all of these to the maximum, you basically gain more saturation, I guess? No, not. I was right. You don't gain much more saturation, everything just becomes more bright. It's not more saturated, so I don't know if you can see this on camera, but when I go back to the standard mode, you'll be able to see the difference, I think, even on camera. Yeah, everything now just looks how it's supposed to be. So yeah, a lot of blunders you have to go through with me in this review. But anyways, let me turn on ULMB once more, and at least for me it's easier to demonstrate to you how ULMB works, because we have even less stuff to change. Well, we have the ULMB pulse width to change, which basically dims the monitor. It's supposed to reduce crosstalk the lower you go with the brightness. Motion clarity should increase because there should be less crosstalk. Well, let me wait for the ready status. Yeah, it's ready now. But I don't really see it getting better, the crosstalk getting better when reducing the brightness. So you can see the UFOs, they're really, really, really clear. This is 1 millisecond of persistence. This is as clear as it gets. It's even sharper than CRTs, because I do have a CRT. It's a P275 from IBM. And I can tell you that even though motion is just as good on the CRT as it is on this monitor, CRTs are just inherently not as sharp as LCDs. So you can see now that I managed to focus, you can see how the UFOs are really the moving UFOs are just as clear as if they would be stationary. That's the best way I can explain it. But you could also see the trail lines behind them. If I get closer and focus again, you will be able to see the trailing behind them. And that is crosstalk, and you can't really do much about it, because NVIDIA with their ULMB won't let you adjust anything more than the pulse width, for comparison's sake I'll reduce to the minimum. And even though I will reduce it to the minimum, you probably won't be able to see that much of a difference. Yeah, crosstalk gets more subtle. Yeah, that's true. But at this point, you've sacrificed so much brightness that you're barely able to see your enemies in game, and crosstalk is still really present, but it's just a little bit less pronounced. So in my opinion, it's not worth it. Even on the maximum pulse width setting of 100, the monitor is not as bright as I would like it to be in game. I mean, it's usable. It's completely usable. Don't get me wrong. But it's just borderline usable. If you lower the brightness anymore, you'll be at a disadvantage compared to your opponents. Even like this, even with brightness on the maximum, I mean pulse width on the maximum, it's still a lot less bright when you're comparing it to not using ULMB and being on 240 Hz. So yeah, I've played like this, I've tried out ULMB in game, and it does help. You feel it's kind of a trade-off. You feel just a little bit of added delay, but in return for that added delay, you're getting a lot more motion clarity, even at 240 Hz. Even when the moving UFOs in non-strobed 240 Hz mode are moving, I mean, are not really blurry in movement. Even though they look like this, which isn't half bad, there's still quite a bit to be gained in motion clarity, because this is just at the speed of 960 pixels per second. Way faster movements can happen in game, and trust me, when you're spraying with an AK and trying to follow an opponent, or just simply spraying and the whole image is just going around like this, jumping around, ULMB does make a difference, or any kind of strobing does make a difference. So I guess that's it for this. There's still stuff I would like to know about 240Hz monitor, like how much of a difference does DIAC make, BenQ dynamic accuracy, which is supposed to be the strobing with the lowest amount of input lag out there and the highest amount of brightness. I would be curious to see how well that works in game for me, and I would be also curious to see whether I can get my hands upon a 27-inch 240Hz monitor that is as responsive as this one, because I left the besting, I mean, I've already mentioned this, but let me tell you this again. This and the, what is that, FreeSync version of this monitor kind of feel on par, but just, I remember the FreeSync version being just a hair better. But if you need G-Sync, well, I guess you can pick this one, but you're getting a lot less options, crappier OSD, crappy RGB lighting at the back if that's your thing. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see it in the red area. A dead pixel if you're unlucky like me. But that was just a joke, it's probably just this unit. It's probably not a common thing. So yeah, I want to get a 27-inch monitor that's just responsive, just as responsive as these, because the two 240Hz 27-inch panels or displays I got were the LG and the Acer of which I'll upload a video. I already have a video about the Acer uploaded, and I'll later upload a video about the LG, which I will film right now. So both of those had problems. I detail the LG's problems in a separate video, and the Acer's problem is detailed in its own review. So yeah, again, would I recommend this monitor? Nope, because it's usually a lot costlier, a lot more expensive than the FreeSync version, and in my opinion, it's worse in most things than the FreeSync version. The only thing that it does better is overdrive, but the difference is so slight. Like on this one, you have a very slight dark blur after the UFO, and on the FreeSync version, you have a very slight white blur after the UFO. Which of those is better for you? That's up for you to decide. For me, I would prefer the white trailing, just because it felt better for me on the FreeSync version. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I can't really say much more than this. You've seen what you have to see. You've seen the OSD, you heard me talking about how this is brighter overall, unnecessarily, and how the internals of the monitor, the OSD responds more slowly, how it doesn't have HDMI 2.0, how it has less options. I think you can make your decision now. If you've been wondering about which to buy, I think you should go for the cheaper and better FreeSync version. The only instance where that advice doesn't apply is when if you desperately need G-Sync. So yeah, thank you for watching this really long-winded video. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section. When I'll upload this video, I'll probably calm down. I've been enraged by CS again. So when you post a comment, I'll probably reply nicely to it.